Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. I'm your host, Billy Mann, and today I have my mate, Julian Freeman on.
Hi, everybody.
And myself and Julian have known each other for a number of years, and I think the first time I suppose, met in the Bones was in Dublin at Amy Mills' weekend in Dublin, which was undoubtedly a smashing weekend, and it was a lovely weekend. But I think it's fair to say, Julian, something moved between us. And ever since then, well, from my own personal perspective, I hold, as I speak to you out there, I hold Julian in the highest of regard, both as a friend and I suppose the odd time as a mentor. And his talent is abundant to see in his world of videos and the essence of catching another human being in a moment and capturing their essence on camera, which is quite a beautiful thing to do, quite a wonderful expression as I see it, Julian. Now, before we go any further, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, tell the world where you are around that at the moment in it, and we'll literally just let the conversation flow from there. So today, Julian, welcome, my friend. The floor is yours.
Thank you. It was lovely to be spending some time with you again, Billy, because I remember that Dublin, and I remember it specifically because you took me out in a car and showed me around the town, and it was in the night actually, and it was just lovely, hearing your story and you taking me places that meant stuff to you and from your past, and just really getting to know you was a wonderful, memorable.
For me too.
And I love nostalgia. I love all those good memories that you can bring with you. They're really, lovely bits of treasure, and life's full of treasure. I love the film that you put up on the post to introduce this talk, which was my extraordinary film, and that's about all the gifts that are around you every day and in every moment, and how we think extraordinary is a thing. It's out there, and we have to go after it and get it. And there are lots of things, obstacles between us and it, and yet extraordinary is in everything, every day, every moment. And that takes the pressure off. It reminds me of when Michael Neal published his first book, The Inside Out Revolution. I went to see him speak, and he signed a copy of the book. Brilliant. But he said some words to me that haven't left me. He said, "It's not the absence of thought, it's the presence of mind." And I, we'd all been going after this thing called thought and the ramifications of it and so on. But to bring mind into the picture, the presence of mind, and that was a real wow moment for me. Like, I'm part of some massive thing that's changing and unfolding and interacting with me, or I am interacting with it. And it's bringing, like, life is bringing me opportunities. Some of them might be not so good. Some of them are fantastic. All of them require me to be an intrinsic part of life. And for life doesn't work without me, and I don't work without life. That sounds, I don't want it to sound airy-fairy and spiritual, because I think it's actually very practical. It's very practical in a couple of ways, more than a couple. First of all, if you can ask yourself that question, am I okay? Right here, right now, am I okay? I've never not being able to answer that question in a positive way. And of course, I'm okay right now. All kinds of stuff might be happening, but I am okay. So that whole thing that I'm part of is supporting me, is looking after me, is positioning me, is just everything is happening that needs to happen right now. And when you know that, that's a real comfort, right? You know, it's like, oh, I don't need to worry because right now is taken care of. And if right now is taken care of, then why can't the next now be taken care of? And the next now. We don't know what that now is going to be, but and that's part of the challenge of this, I suppose. Because the second thing is that our opportunities now, future, etc., is coming towards us. And we have the tendency to want it to be a certain way. And I've got a great story about that where I went whitewater rafting one time, and the guy got us all to, practice paddling so that when we hit the rapids, we could really paddle hard and make it to where we needed to go. But and it was hard work. It was really, it was strenuous, and I think that made it more of an experience, more of a thrilling experience. But what I noticed was, after a while, was that this guy was just gently positioning the raft in a certain part of the flow of the river with just a deft touch of his oar. And then he was happy, he stopped. And the rest of it was because he knew that the raft was going to get through the rapids.
Yeah. Despite all your fleeing around the place, he was after putting it right into the spot. Gotcha.
Now, so that means that there's a flow of life, and the flow of life is taking us. And that's a good thing because it is always taking us somewhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a good thing when we start to paddle hard, when we start to think we need to be in a certain place in our lives, and off we go. We're really working hard at it, and we're going against the flow or across it or just making work for ourselves. And that's compelling because when you feel like you're doing all the hard work, it's, oh, I'm doing it, I'm getting it done, I'm in control, I've got a plan. But is it really doing any more than creating a lot of hard work? So a lot of people in this 3 principles world talk about following a good feeling. Well, I'm saying, and that if it comes easy, if things just fall into place, then you're in the flow. If it's hard, then you're struggling with something. And you talked before we came on here about surrendering, and that's the time when you just got to lift the oar and see where the flow is taking you.
Exactly.
And trust that it is taking you to the perfect place for you and for life. Now the third thing that I've got from all of this is in my filmmaking. Well, first of all, just to give you an example of that with my filmmaking, when I first picked up a camera, I just loved it from the word go. I loved editing. I loved everything about it. It was easy. It was not one of those, oh my God, not more software to learn how to use and all that kind of thing. It was just something I was inspired to do, inspired to find the right teachers, inspired to film people and learn, make lots of mistakes, learning how to do it and learn how to film people and help people get their messages out there and help people learn to film themselves and all those kind of things. And it was just easy. I was in the flow. I did a lot of work. I've done my apprenticeship, if you see what I mean, learning how to do all this stuff, and I'm beyond that now. And that's where this next point comes in, which is that I feel almost like my films are creating themselves, and I'm just pressing the buttons and doing some bits in the middle.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. You're the action, essentially. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I gotcha.
And that's beautiful. I just love sitting back now and watching to see how the film almost makes itself, and see what gets created. And that for me is an example of life doing its thing, and me just being there to facilitate it, to be in that moment with it.
All the time, Julian. I get that. I get that particularly when I'm writing. And funnily enough, with hairdressing, I think, because there's both an element of, in the sense that we're connected to whatever we're doing in front of us, and I'm often really surprised about what I write. I start with one idea and I go, "Oh, didn't realize that now," and sometimes I'm writing, I kind of go, "I'm the first to read what I'm after writing." And like you sitting down and you read it and you kind of go, "Wow, isn't that good now?" You surprise yourself, and you kind of there's a about it, isn't there?
Every,
There's
every film I've made is like the best film I've ever made.
ever.
Well, of course, exactly. And of course, I could look at some older ones and go, "Oh, well, actually, that's not so good now." From a technical standpoint, I would have filmed it better or edited it better or whatever. But the essence of it is still good, still lovely. And I'll give you a fantastic example of that, where there's a lady, I don't know if you knew her, but she was called Wendy Sajasi, and
Indeed, yeah.
she had she battled with cancer for 10 years,
That's
and
correct.
she came to the UK, and I filmed her, and I didn't know why I was filming her. It just seemed, we got together and it seemed relevant, and she, I filmed her, and then when I really right at the end, that film was a loving tribute to her and her family, and I never intended it to be that. I mean, even the family reposted the film. I posted it bizarrely on the morning that she died. Now, I didn't know that she was even that close to dying, etc. I just thought that she was in my heart, and I just thought, oh, it would be a good time. Sunday would be a good time to post it. So I posted it on the Sunday, and she actually passed on the Sunday. And then
Oh.
her family, which is kind of spooky, but hey, if life's got everything under control, then not spooky, I suppose. If and her family reposted it because they thought it was a lovely, film. So, what 2-3 years earlier, when I made that film, I could never have known how that would have been used or turned out. And I'm still proud of that film, and I still love that film. It's a lovely portrait of her,
Mm.
and those are the moments. Those are the moments in which life really pays off for me. They're oh, I see how all this comes together. Just in that aspect of it. Now, there's a lot that I don't see how it comes together. But in the great Steve Jobs speech to Stanford University, he talks about joining the dots, and he says the more you see how the joining the dots lined up in the past, the more it gives you the trust in the future. And that's also right. So those 4 things that I've mentioned now that are really wonderful ways, practical ways in which life mind is helping you, me, and everybody, even the people watching this live or this recording. And that's so wonderful to know, and to be able to. I don't need to share this because it's happening anyway, but if people just get the sense of it, might mean that there is less anxiety and less worry about the future, and more happiness, more peace, more contentment. And that's what life's all about for me, right?
You brought to mind, Julian, I had this conversation with a client yesterday, and they want to discuss wisdom, and how wisdom shows up and all of this type, these questions. as if somehow it's an external thing, or it's, you know, and part of my work is dismantling the illusion that it comes with a seraphim of angels and golden fiery chariots and you know, and all of that stuff, to being perhaps the most practical, sensible, common sense based. It's only the moment that you hear it that you understand it. And we, from a couple of months ago, we were discussing a situation that had showed up in his life, and he was wrestling with it now. He really was wrestling with it, like this particular morning. And I said to him, "What did you do?" He says, "Man," he says, "I was really in the struggle with it." So he said, "I was walking around the kitchen for a good 20 minutes. And I was going fucking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth." And I said, "And what happened?" He said, "I just made myself more confused." And I said, "Did you not see the wisdom in that?" And he says, "What do you mean did I not see?" He said, "I got no wisdom." I said, "You were looking at it the wrong way. You were given 20 beautiful minutes of walking in the kitchen to slow down. Just to slow down. That's wisdom. Supporting you. Even when you thought, you think, you know, he thought he had to have an answer. He was for, and he was just strangled by it. But I said, you know, if you want to look at how wisdom is underpinning life in its beautiful and often simplest ways, you were given 20 minutes to slow down. You gave yourself 20 minutes to walk the kitchen floor for you to hear, well, maybe if I let this alone now for a little bit, if I let this alone now for a little bit, the answer will turn up. So I said, that's actually wisdom. That's how wisdom shows up in our lives, in the most subtle way, carrying us. That we do, it's unbelievably obvious when it's pointed out, but often it's very subversive, and it's too easy. You know, it's the can't be the. But you see, the irony was that if he had taken that 20 minutes when he was walking, pacing the kitchen, to realize, oh my God, I got a head full of thinking, because that was the question I asked him. I said, what was the issue? He said, I was so confused about X, Y, and Z, and I was thinking about this. I said, the moment you enter confusion, the thought of confusion, I said, you were lost. You were going to try to make sense of everything else after that. And in the appearance of wisdom was given enough time to say, I'm very confused right now. I think I'll just take my hands off the wheel and let it go. And that's how wisdom shows up. But the choice is always yours when you're in your head, to ignore it or hear it, and away you go, you know. And it is. You and I were talking about this beforehand, and you know, and there's no harm in bringing it out, because it's not one of those things that's a secret by any means, you know. In the sense, you asked me about where I am in my life at the moment and whether I'm happy and whatever, and I said this to you, and I said, you asked me, did I have an idea to know where I was going? And I said, not a clue. Not a clue. No idea. I'm just literally putting the steps in front of me right now. But then, you know, and I came back to, which probably is a better way of describing it. I'm now within a position within myself to receive what life is giving me, what's already waiting for me. It's a done deal. It's already been waiting for me. I've just, like I say, having the choice to get in my own way to play the game. To get caught in my own stories, in my own hand, Julian, you know, and you're dead right. The moment we kind of psychologically get out of our own way, things do get easier.
It's funny that I've been playing a game with myself very recently, which is a kind of inspired by a very old, again, Michael Neal exercise called the comfy chair, where the description is you sit in the comfy chair and you don't do anything until you're really inspired to do something, and then you can get up and do it. And if you go 4 hours and you haven't had that inspiration, then you've finished the exercise. But I don't think anybody ever does. Anyway, what I've been doing is just not making a plan of each day and just allowing the day, like then just the very next thing to come. Walk the dog, cut some weeds in the garden, go out and sort my money out at the bank. These things, I don't have a clue how they all fit together, but they seem to be the next thing to do. And they're taking me to the end of another beautiful day, another successful. Now, there are some times when I get into my thinking about, well, that's no way to live. You've got you're directionless. You don't know where you're headed. How's this going to turn out? Da, da, da. And that's when I agree with you about you could spend a lot of time and emotional energy worrying about how this system works, or trying to figure out how this system works, or try and make the system work for you. Now, where that's really compelling for me is when I see somebody who is really, really successful, and I'd love to be successful like them. But I can only be me. I can only be what life is handing me, and what skills and capabilities I have, and who I am, and it's about being at peace with that, at peace with that whole equation is being balanced all the time, and I'm just one variable in that.
Yeah.
And I'm, as long as I'm playing my part, and even when I'm in my thinking, I'm playing my part, so
That's the point. Even when you're knee deep in it.
so how does this help? I guess I've been far better in recent times at understanding that I am okay. I think a lot of people who get the principles and have had a big epiphany insight, it's the I'm okay one. And I didn't have that for years. I still felt like I needed to be in control. And if you read my book, Life Beyond Money, the middle section of that is me kind of trying to persuade myself that I don't need to be in control, then not being in control and being okay with it, then finding I've taken control again, or tried to take control again. And like, what are you doing? So it's been a big thing for me. And even now, I haven't got a clue, like with the lockdown and everything, being a filmmaker, I haven't been able to make films.
Yeah.
But I've been editing stuff, and I've been helping. I've been doing a bit of teaching to help people film themselves, and I've helped Dickon and Natasha make a great little film series, which they're going to start launching, I don't know, in the next month or so, I think. And which was brilliant for me. It was brilliant learning for me, editing what they had to say.
And that was rich. That's a
Yeah.
rich vein right there, isn't it?
So I've done, so lots of great things have happened, and now I'm at a stage where things seem to be, I don't know where they go next. And sometimes I'm going to come back to this flow thing. When the flow's strong and you can feel it pulling you and taking you and so on, that feels okay. I don't need to row because the flow is taking me there. But when the flow is weak, or it's hard to feel, that's when it becomes compelling to get my paddle out, start rowing. I've got to get there, and
Oh,
that's something that we humans, we have this thing called time. We believe there's a deadline for stuff, that there's time pressure, that there's got to make progress and got to do it now. I don't think life has any concept of time. It doesn't have any. Time doesn't matter to it about how the world comes together and the shape it takes and so on. It's just us people that want it to happen by when. And if we can drop that, we can stop putting ourselves under pressure in every which way we put ourselves under pressure, because in the words of Shakespeare, you know, we're all actors on the stage, and we're here to play our part, and that's as much as it is. Now, does that sound like a spiritual bypass? I don't think so. I think it's actually quite practical, because what he's saying is there's no point in struggling with some of the stuff you're struggling with. You're looking in the wrong direction, like you said. When you allow the flow to take you, you'll end up somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee where that is, but you'll end up somewhere, the exact place that life needs you and wants you, and where you can make whatever differences you're meant to make. Now, I don't know whether I'll ever make the difference that Ridley Scott makes as a filmmaker, you know, making all those fantastic movies that everybody watches and employing hundreds of people and all big budgets and so on. But I make the films that I make. I hope they make a difference. I hope people enjoy watching them, get something out of all those films. They're all available on YouTube. On Julian at starsofwellbeing.com, and I don't know yet what my next film was going to be. When the pandemic started, I thought, I need to do something film about this, but I haven't done it, and yet it hasn't come to me what that film needs to be, and I'm sure it will. I'm sure if and when I've got a camera here, you know, I'll it's always ready to hand. I'll get going, and
you're tooled up, right? Fully charged and ready to roll. Yeah, you know, but in the meantime, you know what I mean? You know, the danger of, you know, of looking for inspiration can itself be such a dodge. You know that that you can get sucked into, I need inspiration for this, I need inspiration for that, and it does create in itself its own paralysis. That's sometimes the best thing to do, is literally just go, just going to step back for a little bit.
I mean, I might. It's totally possible that I might never make a film again in the same way as I have been. I might never make a film again, full stop, and I might go and do something else with my life. But right now, I'm ready. I'm waiting. I know what skills I've got. I know what capabilities I've got. I know what I can put an intention out there to help people, to help this wonderful message get out there, to help more people enjoy their life, to enjoy my life. And that's where I start it now, is every day I allow in the opportunity to enjoy my life. Yes. And I wish that for everybody.
Yeah. The dropping of the expectation. That's so powerful, Julian. That is so powerful. The dropping of the expectation, and like you were saying, the linear notion of time, that we need to be at a certain point by a certain stage, or somehow we're incomplete, or we have failed, or we have screwed it up, but we don't know that. We just don't know that. That's just, like I was saying, it's funny how my understanding of that whole time thing has shifted into a bubble. You know, that it's all kind of it's all like my life is a bubble in time that's kind of all playing out together. Just seems to make sense to make that, you know, to see it that way right now. That, and whatever is there is already there. And the opening to it, and the receipt of it, and for a long time, Julian, I did get in my own way. And like somebody asked me recently about this and about the closing of the business, and I said the very reasons that kept me there turned out to be the very reasons I left, because I had a shift in my understanding. You know, and I saw it this way for the last number of years, and then I saw it this way. And I began to realize, well, this is the space that I have craved for the last number of years. Really, if I look deeply inside myself, to, you know, that I felt harnessed by it. I felt that I was committed to something that I had to see through, and I was afraid to, you know, even though I could feel the strength of that pull for a long time, I was committed to it, Julian, you know, and it held me, and the very reasons, like I said, it held me turned out to be the very reasons I had to leave in the first place.
Mm.
I shouldn't have left, but I didn't, you know. And like I say, am I happier now? By a country mile. By a country mile. There is no comparisons. And there is the moments where you're flying by the seat of your pants and you wonder what the Jesus you're going to. But that's the moment that there is that element of anticipation now. Ooh, you know, look what's shown up in my life. And it's showing up now. And like I say, for me, the element of the surrender has been to allow life in now. Just allow it in and receive it in whatever way it decides to show itself up.
Lovely.
And that is a subtle shift, but it's practical. You know, you like me shared that same sense that when we fall across this understanding, people tend to want to, like you say, bypass life, make all. No. I have no interest in having these types of conversations with you unless there is a practical implication to the conversation. How is this going to show up in your life now? You know, it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be the mega glorious stuff. But right now, in its simplicity, how is it showing up in your life? And that's the difference. It's got to be about that, Julian. It's got to be about that. That's how I see. That's how it makes sense to me. And I've just realised that I'm 35 in. So I know we had spoken about kind of wrapping it up around the 35 minutes. So Julian, I know you're busy. I do appreciate the time taken, and we will pick this up again when you have more time. I know we tried the last time, but for other reasons, its schedule wobbles got in our way, and that was that. So we are going to circle around to this again the next time we've got more time. To everybody else that is watching it or going to watch it later on, for me, sitting here listening to Julian, you know, and knowing the man and knowing the essence of the man, that for me, I always sense in my own conversations, love, Julian, the sense of love, the sense of depth, you know, the sense of wellness for both yourself and every other human being.
Love's been big for me. It's been a hard teacher at times, but it's also been a great supporter and continues to show me wonderful things about life.
There you go. And on that last word, thank you all for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye for now.